If you think about Shakespeare, when we were speaking and we did the whole thing on Kung Fu, the Kung, who's the Kung, I read a part to you, an excerpt, which said that it was speaking about the 24 histories and vernacular of the world, and it's written by the Chinese in Chinese, and a part of it showed that the Kong people were black, long story short, and they had the power to control beasts and lions and oxes, and you know, they do all the kung fu thing. And I was like, how comes us as black people didn't know that we had this type of power? And they worshipped things like the bear, the snake, etc., which are the same things that the Americans, you know.
Well, you have mascots and stuff. Really, they're taking the piss out of us.
Yeah. So we liking them because we've always thought, oh, the native Indians are light skinned are the real ones, when we now know that they're not. They were mixed race. They were the people that they were taking to these hamlets. So we've been given these stories. You see how rude they are? Most of us think Hamlet's a person, but really they're talking about what they were doing in secret, but in your face, by giving you it as a story. Because
also you can't really tell. Imagine, like, okay, let's say with the Rothschilds and Illuminati and all of that, they try and show you subliminals because they've taken an oath. So if they do speak out on it, they'll be killed off. And wasn't Shakespeare killed off?
I can't remember, but he had his hand in the Bible as well.
Yeah.
And that's another thing when I looked into
you're right, very good at storytelling.
Yeah. But my thing is, why even tell us? Why even tell us?
Because I feel like there's got to be some people that know it's wrong, or it's either one of them types of sadistic theories where you try and, like, you know them ones where you dangle something in front of someone's face, but it's like, you know, you can't have it, but here you go, just to tease people. But really,
well, some of his best works, it says here, were mainly tragedies until 1608. Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, which I think is Antoinette and her husband. And I'm finding out that she married into what you now would call American Indians, but the indigenous tribes.
Yeah.
The Washita, which I feel is what Washington comes from. Yeah,
of course, nothing's original.
What's her name? The Empress, this black woman that fought back and got the land, the Illinois land back. She fought until her death to prove who she was. Anyway, I think that's what Romeo and Juliet are really about. But apparently, the son never died. He's still alive somewhere. Or, well, he won't be alive now, but his relatives are. They escaped to America. There's a lot of stuff that they tell us that is story, which is actually true, and they're hiding. They've lied a lot to us. In researching, they'll say, like, say they talk about a king and a queen, they'll know who the queen is and all her people, but suddenly they don't know who the king is. That's when I say, oh, he was black.
Of course,
he was definitely black. Because
they have no pictures at all.
Yeah, bullshit. You know what it is? If they give us too much information, we'll find out that it's the thread. And then the dates don't match up. And that's another thing. If you've looked at the Gregorian calendar, that's what it's called again. Remember when I showed you? You know what's mad about that calendar? I'm still trying to work it out. So say like it's 2022 now. It will say in China it was 255 BC.
Yeah, the calendars don't make sense.
I'm like, so now I'm wondering.
What time frame are we in?
Yeah, so now I'm wondering if some of the history they've given us and said it was a certain date, it was actually happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're lying. You know, they bamboozle us so much. You know what? All they do is lie. But anyway, T.S. Eliot wrote the first printed Bible, but what he did was he was in America, and it's called Apostle to the Indians, yeah? And he apparently got the Ten Commandments from them. But obviously they dilute everything because, you know, what's that lady I like to listen to, the African lady, Dr. Oh, I need to find her channel, show you her channel. She was saying the other day like, everybody gets so hung up on these 10 commandments. And she said that everybody thought that she was being disrespectful when she said what she said. But what she was trying to say is they're so basic, they should be innate in you. Yeah. These commandments aren't, I don't reckon, for us. They're for people that have they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to behave. They have to be taught to be civilized. Yeah. So when you think about that, and then you...
Because it's 614, isn't it? Or it's more...
Deeper. Because we're already spiritual and connected people, right? So he asked them for the commandment. He tried to give them this new religion and they weren't having it, right?
So killed them off.
Well, basically. But when I traced who his family are, guess who his relative is? T.S. Eliot. Thomas Stearns Eliot, born 26th of September 1888. It says St. Louis, Missouri, US. Guess what he is? Poet, essayist, playwright, publisher, critic. All of these people write stories.
They said this from jump. You know what's weird as well? And in school, the way they try and like push Shakespeare so much into history classes, but you have to ask yourself, like, why are they doing this? Why are they teaching your children or black children? Because when we come into school, we think, I don't know why you're teaching me this, because it has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? That's your history. But at the same time, they'll do things like paint the queen like pink or really, really fair or something, or some random person in the royal family lighter than they actually are, because they don't want anything to be discovered.
Well, I was on somebody else's channel, what's his name? Merkaba.
The fact that people are only realising now Beethoven was black.
Well, all you got to do is read T.H. Huxley's, the Huxley Files. These are white people from them telling you the truth. And you know, like I said, people won't read these long books.
Yeah, exactly.
They won't read them. And then when I was looking into...
Especially if you're putting a massive price on it.
Yeah, a lot of them cost. But you know what, just to let you guys know, a lot of the books that we'll put up, you can actually go online and read them. I'm reading one right now. It's called... I started to read it today and I couldn't stop reading. Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx by Augustus Lee Ponglion M.D.
Ponglion.
Now, remember when I said to you, they call America the New World, but that was the new voyagers who didn't know that their predecessors had already gone and discovered it. Well, this book, which is being okayed by the Congress. And when I say the Congress, I mean, to be precise, the Library of Congress. You know that it's factual, it's facts, right? Now, when I was, it was about, I think Eden was about 6, I did learn about the Mu Kingdom. But initially, a lot of people that were speaking, like, as being fathers who know the truth, were still getting it wrong. Because they were saying that the Kingdom of Mu was Africa. But what I will say to you about these names, you got to understand there's a lot of duplications. Like, okay, Sheffield. They have a Sheffield near to Massachusetts in America, but we know where Sheffield is in England. It's dry up there. We know where Plymouth is. It's dry there. It's dry. It's dry. Very white, and it's dry, even for white people.
What about Birmingham, Alabama?
Well, the West. Do you know when they were talking about the West? You know, as we say in our vernacular, the West has a certain mentality. They talk about West Midlands. It originates from West Midlands.
No, but I've always thought about that. I've always thought
we did it.
Because we have East. We don't have South Midlands. South is just London.
London.
But
when they talk about it, it was us lot. It was us lot. When they talk about the West mentality, it's us, originally. So I'm talking about, you've got duplications of places all over the world. So when they were talking about Egypt, because this book that we've just talked about, when it talks about Egypt, it's actually talk about Atlantis, which is America, which are the Mayas, which are the Yucatans. So when I said to you, America is also Egypt. This is what I was talking about. This is the evidence. If you want to read about the truth of the Bible, the truth of Atlantis, the truth of America, Genesis, you want to read this book. And Queen Mu is not an African. She is what you would call an indigenous American. She actually had to flee from America because there was fights going on. But it says that America was the old world. But we've always been told about the flood or something crashed and hit the earth and it displaced the continent. And it says America was a continent. So it was together. Canada and America were one. And the West Indies. It was a continent. And the Kingdom of Mu wasn't Africa as we know it today, because actually Africa is being used as the lower part of Africa in the past on the map to the right. It was just one place inside what we call Africa today. Africa, as we know today, was also called Ethiopia. So was America, and so was, the rest of the world, Asia. And we forget about Australia, because you got to remember they're black there too. Anywhere there was black skinned people, they were called Ethiopians, because Ethiopia means burnt skinned people, right? Although we come in different colours, even almost white. Because as we said before, this whole thing about being white, when you go and look it up in the Britannica files, which is also kosher, it says that this race thing was a made-up thing in the 1800s, and that from that came white privilege, which everyone says doesn't exist.
Just allow it.
They made laws in the 1800s based on being white. So everybody that keeps saying it doesn't exist,
that was just to save themselves.
Historically it exists. So I suggest you read up on that. So many people hear them saying it doesn't exist. What are you on?
I don't see colour.
Yeah, okay. Well, your forefathers did. So what was I saying now? So this one book shows you that it even says that America went and colonized the whole world. Now, does it mean it in the same sense of the colonizers that we know of, the Ottoman slavery, the white voyagers? Does it mean it in the same sense? I don't know. When I finish reading the book, I'll let you know. But I would say to you, it's very easy. Go online and read it, and we'll send hopefully a link. But sometimes they like to remove our links. Yeah, our little channel's causing a bit of a stir, So anywho, I'm going to read you some things from there. Yeah.
The famous sites are sites like Cahokia, or Poverty Point, or the Ohio sites such as High Bank and Newark. Amazing, huge geometrical earthworks, absolutely stunning. But the trouble is that in the 18th and 19th and 20th centuries, there was massive, large-scale destruction of these ancient monuments.